All right, Nick, let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. And specifically, we want to talk about a guy that we have really liked all season long, and that is quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. And Nick, he is so good this season. Per PFF, he is the number one graded quarterback, and he is even better than people give him credit for, I believe. And I think that, there's a lot of other names out there that if you ask someone, who's the best quarterback in the NFL, Tua is not necessarily at the top of their list. And we have a story today to kind of tell you why maybe he should be at the top of the list, Nick. But this Dolphins team is also very impressive. And I want the Dolphins fans in the comments below to let us know this team may be one of the most impressive Dolphins teams in recent memory, but there might be just one missing piece gone from this team, Nick. And so, Dolphins fans, if there was one player in the league that you could steal off another team and add to this squad to just make it perfect, who would you pick? Which one player in the NFL would you add to this Dolphins squad to give you that little extra edge? But Nick, what do you have on Tua?
Yeah, so the NFL is one of those "what have you done for me lately" businesses, right? We hear it all the time. Monday is always overreaction Monday, whatever happens the Sunday before. And after the Chiefs had that thrilling come from behind victory against the Chargers in LA with Mahomes leading a go-ahead drive late in the game and a touchdown pass, everyone in the blogosphere, everyone in the media, whether Fox, ESPN, CBS, Twitter sphere, whatever, came out and said, Mahomes is the MVP. He showed it today. He's the MVP. He's still the top dog on the block. And while I understand why, caught up in the moment, caught up in the emotions of a big victory for the Chiefs are 8-2. They're looking really good again. I think the reality is the numbers show that Tua right now is clearly the best quarterback in football. And frankly, Mize, it's not even close. Obviously, he's put up big numbers. The Dolphins have scored a lot, but let's take a deep look into the analytics. I know we got a chart here that I took from Tej Seth over on Twitter. So what you have here is a metric EPA per pass, and I won't go into all the acronym stuff, but this is basically measuring a quarterback's efficiency per pass in situations where they're likely to throw. So that's third and long, 2-minute drill right before half, trailing by 2 scores, things like that. So how good is a quarterback when a team knows they're going to pass the football? Because that was one of the complaints against Tua. It was like, well, he can, play action, the zone read, RPO kind of game. He can be efficient in that, but can he really be a 2-minute general? Can he really lead big comebacks and things like that and manage the game when teams know he's going to throw the football? And when you look at this chart, Mize, it blows it away. You can see Tua, number one right there at the top for the Miami Dolphins, far above everybody else, including quarterback Pat Mahomes. Mahomes is the only ones who even remotely close to him. It's clearly Tua's number one, Mahomes is number two. And if Mahomes right now is the media darling, you got to look at Tua and say, listen, if he's outclassing the media darling right now, he's clearly the MVP in my mind. When you look at this chart, Mize, what's your first thought when you jump out of this? Are people overreacting to Mahomes or is Tua, really moving up the ranks in the MVP talking?
So when I look at this chart, Nick, I take a step back and I see three teams there. These are three teams that throughout this whole season we have seen as contenders, Super Bowl favorites, and that's the three AFC teams. That's the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Dolphins. These are the three young quarterbacks who everyone's been talking about. One is on a little bit of a downstroke right now. That's Josh Allen. He's kind of in a skid right now, but he's still a great quarterback. And you can see the distance that he has from Mahomes. Mahomes is clearly further ahead than Allen. And like you said, Mahomes is the media darling right now. Everyone's talking about Mahomes. He has the most recent big divisional win over the Chargers, last second comeback. But even there's a significant, I'd say, about a point gap between him and Tua. Tua is a good amount ahead of him comparatively. There's Allen, and then this is the gap between Allen and Mahomes, and then this is the gap between Tua and Mahomes. So, I mean, it's like you said, there's Mahomes and Tua way out front, and Tua's even more in front of Mahomes, but they're way out in front of everybody else. So when I look at this chart, it just shows me how good he is and how much further these two guys are out in front of everybody. And even with Tua out in front of Mahomes, it's just so impressive, just the gap between that they've put on the entire NFL so far.
And this is not just cherry picking data. I want to bring this out too, because this is obviously from Ted Seth, who's a great analytics guy. So him putting this together, it kind of showed how good Tua is, but it's not just this data set. So one of my favorite statistics for grading quarterbacks is yards per passing attempt. Some people like completion percentage. I feel like you can dink and dunk your way to a high completion percentage. Some people like passing yards. Obviously if you're in a garbage time, you can build up the yards. It looks kind of unfair. Touchdowns can be a little weird too, depending if you're a red zone running team or red zone throwing team. So sometimes that's not even the best metric. I like yards per passing attempt. That's efficiency. That's how many yards you get per throw, right? The simplest, most bare bones efficient metric. So Tua right now is number 1 in the NFL in yards per passing attempt at 9.1. Pat Mahomes is third place at 8.2. So it's just to give you some frame of reference for those numbers, the difference between Tua at number 1 and Pat Mahomes is the difference between Tua and Jacoby Brissett.
Wow.
Think about that for a second, Miles. That's how huge a gap and how well Tua has played so far this year, where the gap between Tua and the chosen one, Pat Mahomes, is the same gap between Mahomes and a guy who's about to lose his job in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's how good Tua has been. I mean, it has really been impressive, even more than people have been giving him a lot of credit, and it's really deserved. But when you take a deeper look at the data, it's even more impressive.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to fall away from our point here, Nick, but it's not like we're saying Patrick Mahomes is bad. I don't want people
not
to
at all.
get that confused. Patrick Mahomes, this is like comparing Tom Brady and Drew Brees, or Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. Tom Brady's obviously the GOAT, but Peyton Manning was so good. Like there's points in the career, that historic Broncos offense with Peyton Manning, there's a couple number of Colts years, but this is just like saying Tom Brady was so far out in front of Peyton Manning a lot of years that, these guys are still great, but one guy was way out in front. And right now, this specific season, that's Tua. Tua's been playing far and away better at the quarterback position than Mahomes has been playing. And I'll say, okay, you look at the analytics, maybe Mahomes can scramble a little bit better than Tua, but throwing the ball, Tua has been so good, and he's made everybody around him so much better. And I just think this season, Tua is by far my MVP candidate. I don't know if it's going to flesh out that way, Nick, but I think Tua is far and away number 1 on my list for guys to pencil in for the MVP for this season.